made to you so special? Nothing. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn.
Okay, guys, we are back, and I'm here with a brand spanking review of John Wick Chapter 4. This is Frank Stout, aka Just a Guy from Brooklyn, trying to bring you that movie love the Brooklyn way. And let's just jump right in. As always, when it comes to my reviews, I want to give you the good, the bad, and the in-between. So let's just bring this out here. They're already saying that this movie is like the movie of the year. There's a few people saying that. They're saying that it might not only be that, but also maybe the best John Wick movie. And that is definitely possible. It's definitely more epic. It's more ambitious, I think. It's bigger in scale. It has some really great new characters. You know, I will say this. If you are a fan of these movies, you're probably going to enjoy this one. You know, no matter what I say. You know, I am not a big super fan of John Wick. So let's just jump right in. Let's start with the premise. The premise is there's a new person at the high table, and he's played by Bill Skaarsgard, and he's a character known as the Marquis. He's basically the big bad villain in this movie. He's out to get John Wick. John Wick himself is hiding out in Japan at the beginning of the movie. And I will say this movie definitely is, you know, it definitely has huge set pieces. I mean, we're going from New York, Japan. We spent some time in Germany. We end up in Paris. There's some shots in the desert. I mean, you got a little bit of everything here. I also want to say rest in peace to Lance Reddick. Great guy. He was part of 2 television series that I loved very much, The Wire and Fringe, and he was part of this. Let's get in with the good, and the good is the action. I mean, whatever kind of serving size of action that you think you're going to get, it's probably bigger than what you think you're going to get. I mean, this thing gives you, there's no portion control here. This is not a diet movie. This movie is giving you a whopping huge amount of action for your movie dollar. It also gives you great different types of action type sets. You start in Japan, you end up literally, in some shots in Germany. Then you end up literally going all across Paris. There's shots like literally he's fighting in traffic, and I will say, if you thought that they couldn't think of anything more to do with the action, they did. In this one, they definitely have different types of styles and different types of things that they do to kind of up the ante for you. Another thing is the new characters. You have Donnie Yen, who's basically like kind of like a daredevil, a blind character, which he's played before. And he's basically the guy who the Marquis has hired against his will, to go against John Wick. And he definitely, he's part of a lot of great action sets. There's also this other character played by Shamir Anderson. He's basically known as Mr. Nobody. He's kind of like a rogue, wild card kind of character who you really don't know who his allegiance is to. He seems to want to get John Wick, but he's not doing it for free. He wants the highest price possible. He also has like a sidekick dog, because of course you have to have at least a dog, one dog in all of these movies. And he definitely adds a little different type of flavor to the movie. And honestly, the movie is just visually stunning. It's a beautiful movie. All the shots, all the big wide angle shots are just beautiful. Now let's get to the bad. I gotta be honest with you. This there were things in this movie that took me out of the movie a few times. And number one, as far as the bad is, the suspension of disbelief belief factor is very, very high here. And listen, with these movies, you already have a certain amount of suspension for disbelief. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you see in these movies is kind of obviously, I mean, John Wick is almost superhuman, right? But in this movie, it definitely goes, at least for me, it goes a little too far for my taste. I do like my movies to be grounded to a certain extent. I mean, this isn't a Marvel movie. He's not a superhero. At one point, he literally falls from a building onto a car. Then he goes, after taking out who knows how many guys on the street, he gets into a literally fighting multiple attackers in Paris traffic. He gets hit by a few cars. He's involved in a few motor vehicle accidents. Um, and then on top of that, uh, there's this huge scene leading up to the finale where he has to go get to the top of these like famous steps in Paris. I don't know what they are, but they're like cobblestone steps. He gets tossed around on these steps frequently. He gets thrown down the steps, rolling down these huge stone steps. Look, I work in a hospital, for a living. I work in an orthopedic department. I know that any of those things that I just mentioned you're not getting up from any of that stuff. So maybe it's that for me personally. I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna think about it. You might look at that and be like, it's a John Wick movie, and that's what these movies are, and that's fine for you. If that's the case, really there is no bad then. My second bad factor is length. This movie is close to 3 hours long, and the majority of this movie is John Wick killing and shooting and jujitsuing people just nonstop. I mean, there are some breaks in the action to kind of further him along, give him certain goals to meet. He is obviously trying to reach a certain point in the finale so that he can end this conflict. And you know, I just felt like, especially when it got to the steps, and then there was a like I don't know, maybe it's just me, but at one point, and maybe I'm wrong, if you can correct me in the comments, at one point he's at the bottom of the steps and he realizes he's got 2 minutes to make it to the top of the steps. He's got like 40 people in front of him to fight. And he fought all those people and made it to the top of the steps with some help. But it definitely was longer than 2 damn minutes. I mean, it just didn't it didn't add up to me. I just wasn't buying the bread, is basically what I'm saying. I'm not buying all this stuff that I'm mentioning, all this bad stuff. I'm not buying none of this bread. It took me out of the movie completely. The in between, the only in between that I can mention, I can think of, and again, you can correct me. Maybe somebody can explain this to me in the comment section. All of a sudden, John Wick has a family. Apparently he has a family, and he goes to meet up with them to like kind of like get his status back with the high table. But in another scene, literally in this movie, they say that he was an orphan plucked and made into a weapon. That doesn't make sense to me. If somebody can answer that for me, please explain that to me. I was literally like scratching my head to all that. Really, it just felt like my mind was playing tricks on me at one point. Okay. There was a scene where he went through a building killing people, and the camera kind of panned up, and it basically gave you almost like it literally felt like a video game. You saw him literally from above killing just hordes of people, just trying to kill him. He's shooting them up. And I guess you could think that that was really cool. It felt like I was watching a video game and that I couldn't play it, was what it felt like to me. But it didn't really take me out of the movie like the other things I mentioned. It just was kind of meh. And I thought that could have been also shaved down for the runtime. But, in closing, I think this is a solid movie. I think that if you're a fan of these movies, you're going to get everything that you want and then some. It definitely is a great conclusion to all these movies. And there is an end credit scene, so you should stick around, check that out. My score for this movie, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Um, and I do think it's worth going to the theater to see. And it's a fun watch. So guys, this is Frank Stout checking out from the BK, and all I gotta say is peace. See my face in lights, on my name on marquees found down on Broadway. Even if it ain't all it seems, I got a pocket full of dreams, baby. I'm from New York.